What's up, YouTube? Welcome to part 2 of my story of why I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. Last time I left off, I had just gotten baptized, so we'll start there. The moment I got baptized, I was all in. I was zealous, eager, and determined to prove my devotion. I went out in ministry multiple times a week, knocking on doors, standing on corners, believing I was doing something meaningful. The brothers and sisters, they noticed my effort, and so they encouraged me to push for more. This encouragement was to sign up to be an auxiliary pioneer, and what that means is just putting in 50 hours a month. Not preaching, going out in ministry, things like that. And I took it as a badge of honor. I felt like they appreciated all the effort, and encouraged me to do that. So at first it was fun. It was exhilarating. I had a tight-knit group of friends, all pushing towards the same goal. We spent hours together, preaching, laughing, bonding. Doing what young people do, enjoying ourselves. In the same shared goal that we had. It felt like we were part of something bigger than ourselves. But soon, as it does in religions like this, the encouragement, they escalate, they get more, they want you to do more and more. So this time, they encouraged me and my group of friends to strive to be a regular pioneer. And what that means is just putting in 70 hours or more a month, preaching and knocking on doors, things like that. The pressure was subtle. It was wrapped in words of praise and expectation, but it was there. The pressure was there. At the time, I was already juggling a full-time job, a full-time job, and I was also going to college part-time at this time. So it was a lot. So I turned to my teacher for advice, my Bible teacher. He told me pioneering was a great way to show my love for Jehovah, but he reminded me that I had to balance my responsibilities. And so I took his words to heart. But then came the broadcasts, the washed out articles, discouraging higher education. And so I convinced myself that pioneering was more important. So I made a choice. I dropped out of college. My mother wasn't happy. She wanted me to finish school first, but I assured her that this was what Jehovah wanted. But now, looking back, I wish I had listened to her. At first, pioneering was fun, not because of the ministry itself. Most people didn't want to talk to us, so that wasn't the fun part. But the fun part was because of the friendships that I made. We were young, dedicated, and full of purpose. Everyone in the congregation seemed to love me. I was invited everywhere. Parents, they would suddenly hint at setting me up with their daughters. I won't get into that. I wasn't interested in dating at the time, so I didn't really pay that too much attention. But the attention, it did feel good. I remember my teacher even gave a talk on stage about me. The title of the talk was Cultivating Love for Jehovah in a Young Person. It made me beam with pride. I was like, oh man, I was kind of happy that he made that talk about me, or he spoke with me as an example in that talk. I remember visitors from other congregations knew who I was. People invited me to their kingdom halls for a brief moment. I felt like a superstar. Everybody knew me. But then came the exhaustion. Little by little, I started to get exhausted. Let's get into that. So here, I'm still working 40 hours or more a week at work. I'm trying to squeeze in 70 hours in the ministry a month, attending all the meetings, preparing for assignments. So sleep, that became a luxury. I'll be happy to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night. I remember I started feeling just drained, but I pushed through it. When I told my teacher, about how tired I was getting, he reassured me. He told me that everyone feels like that their first year, but to pray to Jehovah, and it gets better. So I held on. I was so tired. I remember I was so tired that I started falling asleep in the car on the way to the ministry. My friends, they would pick me up to go out in the ministry, and I would fall asleep in their car. Fortunately for me, my friends, they were understanding and kind, and they would let me rest while they went out. Those moments, it really bonded us together in the way, I don't think anything else would. We were all struggling, all pushing ourselves to the limit. I remember I barely made it through that year. I remember padding my hours with early and late night letter writing. If you know, you know. If the pioneers out there, or the ex-pioneers out there, those early morning and late night letter writing just to pad those hours. But moving on to pioneer school. When my friend and I completed our first year, we were sent to pioneer school. And what pioneer school is just a week-long course which meant to kind of congratulate and encourage the pioneers to keep going. I was excited. I thought it would be something special, something different. It wasn't. I remember they handed us a book, told us not to share it with anyone. At that time, I didn't understand why, but now I do. It was about maintaining the illusion that we knew something that others didn't, that we were special. But the material wasn't new. It wasn't just another reinforcement. It was just another reinforcement of the same beliefs that we already knew. Nothing new, nothing special, just the same material, just, put in a different wording. I remember after pioneer school, I was done. My body, my mind, my spirit, I was exhausted. I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to keep going. I really didn't want to keep pioneering anymore. I remember telling one of my pioneer partners, my buddies, he understood, where I was coming from. And then I told my teacher, I remember him urging me to hold on just a little longer, that, things would get better. At the moment, it was a lot because I was working so much and I had other responsibilities and stuff, so that's why it seemed like it was a lot at the time. And so I held off for a few more months, but nothing changed. I wasn't enjoying the ministry. I wasn't seeing results. I wasn't even feeling Jehovah's blessings at the time. So behind my teacher's back, hey, I didn't go to him again. I called another elder and told him that I wanted to step down. He tried to talk me out of it, but I stood firm. I said, hey man, I'm tired. I'm tired right now. So the next meeting, they announced that I was no longer a pioneer. And just like that, everything changed. The warm greeting that I used to get from everyone, it turned cold. Some people were still friendly, but others, they pretending like, they kind of pretended like I wasn't there, or, they would see me, look, and nod, and that was about it. But before, they would be running up to me, hey, how you doing? Things like that. It was funny because, in my mind, I was like, man, I hadn't even sinned yet. I hadn't committed a sin or broken any rules, I just simply stopped pioneering. But hey, that's how it is in a religion. In their eyes, I had fallen. So a few months later, the circuit overseer visited. I remember the elders pulling me aside. They wanted me to become a ministerial servant. I hesitated at first. I remember telling him I don't know if I could handle the responsibility because I had just, a few months ago stepped down from pioneering because I was overwhelmed. They reassured me, told me I'd be good for the position, that even though I stepped away from pioneering, I had proven that, that Jehovah was with me, that Jehovah was using me. So hey, and they told me that being a minister's servant, it wouldn't be as demanding as pioneering would be, and that they would help me. And so I caved in, I prayed, and I accepted. And just like that, the cold shoulders that everybody else, all these people that were giving me, the same people who had distanced themselves from me, suddenly they wanted to be my friends again. They wanted to be all warm and bubbly to me again. It was just funny to see how people change just because you got a simple title. Now, the first crack in my faith appeared when a pioneer sister from my group suddenly disappeared. The first year that I pioneered, we had we had a small group, tight-knit group of pioneers. There was a sister in there. She was a super zealous sister, and she suddenly disappeared. She stopped coming to the meetings. No announcements were made, no explanation. When I asked about her, I was told to simply just stay away from her. That was it. Nothing else. It was crazy because she was like the most zealous among us. She had dreams of Bethel, missionary work, everything. And now she was gone, and no one wanted to talk about it. So it was kind of weird to me. I even tried to reach out to her. I remember calling her, but she never answered. So, hey, I left it be, but I knew something was wrong. Something wasn't right in that. The second crack came when my grandfather died. He wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but he was the head of our family, the one who held us together, in my opinion. His death really devastated us. I remember my mother asking if an elder could give the funeral talk, but they refused. Their compromise, their way of compromising was that if I would give the talk. Of course, I didn't want to. My grandfather had just died, so I was grieving. But, they gave me no choice. I remember I asked my teacher too, and he said that he couldn't, and that really broke my heart. But he said that he would send me a funeral talk outline that I could look over, and to be able to give that talk. And so I did. I remember standing there in front of my family, holding back tears, pretending to be strong, giving that part. And hey, I did it. I held it down for the family, as you would say. I remember only 3 witnesses came to my grandfather's funeral: my teacher, his wife, and another buddy of mine, and that was it. That's when I realized, everything. It was all conditional. The love, the friendship, the so-called spiritual family that I had, they only cared when you were one of them. Since my grandfather wasn't one of them, they could care less. It was sad. It broke my heart, but hey, it is what it is. COVID. I remember when COVID came around. Oh yeah, COVID was definitely my lifeline. When COVID hit, everything changed. For the first time, I remember I was free from the constant pressure of meetings and ministry. I could breathe. But even then, responsibilities, I still gained responsibilities. Oh, I remember why. It's because for some reason, elders were disappearing, getting disfellowship, maybe disassociating. Something was happening behind closed doors, behind the scenes, but no one was talking about it. You know, everybody was pretending like nothing was happening, but all these elders, minister servers, just dropping off like flies. It was weird. And then I remember the vaccine push. Oh man, for some reason the governing body was strongly recommending everybody get a vaccine, you know. I remember my mother pressing me to get it because she got it. She got 2 of them and I hadn't gotten one, so she was pressing me. You know, it's crazy. You know, the manipulation tactic that, you know, they were using, I really didn't like. So because of that, you know, I decided that it was time that I move out. At the time, I was still living with my mom, so I decided, you know, it's about time that I move out. Where I decided to move, I didn't want to just move in the city. I wanted to move out of state, you know, get a fresh start. I lined up a job, you know, I lined everything up, job, apartment, you know, everything that I needed before the move. And then strangely, my mom got COVID. She told my family I was abandoning her. And so, you know, she got to me. I stayed, you know, I stayed with her until she got well. After she got well, I moved out. But I didn't move to another state anymore. I moved to another part of the city. Oh, I stayed in the city, just moved out of the house. That way, you know, just in case she needed me, I'd be there. I kept quiet. I stopped attending meetings. I ignored calls from elders. For the first time, I was doing what I wanted. You know, for the first time, I felt like I was free. But then I heard a knock on my door. I was kind of shocked who was knocking on my door because I didn't tell anybody where I had moved to. I think the only people that knew where I lived was my mom and one of my buddies. So I thought maybe it was just somebody random knocking on my door. So, you know, I opened up the door and it was 2 elders from my old congregation, you know, the congregation that I wasn't going to anymore. And so I was surprised, but I let them in. They, you know, asked me some questions. They asked me some questions. Asked me questions like, you know, where was I attending the meeting, if I was going, what have I been up to. You know, no one has heard of me in a while. You know, it had been like 6 months that I didn't attend any meeting anywhere. And so I told them, hey, I just needed a break. You know, I was exhausted, tired. I needed a break from everything. And so they told me that, hey, a break was okay, but not from Jehovah. You know, these brothers, they were smooth. The way they talked to me, they were smooth talkers, man. And so somehow they convinced me. They convinced me to return to Jehovah. And just like that, I was back in again. I was back in. But let's see. All right. I went over the time limit that I wanted for this video, so I'm gonna cut it off here. But in the next part, I promise, you know, I'm gonna finish off. I'm gonna cap off on, you know, exactly how I left this religion, why, and how I left this religion. All right. Peace.